Come, let us explore the strange magic of uncontrived meditation. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question begins, how do I improve or explore further? Here's my meditation technique. I am after advice on how to improve or different areas to explore. Number one, I start sitting either feet together or cross-legged. Number two, I take a few deep breaths to relax. Number three, I close my eyes. So right off the bat, so my job here is neither to to quote Mark Antony, I come not to praise Caesar, but to bury him. Similarly, I am not here to be mean or blow sunshine up this person's nose. I'm here to answer their question, how they can do better. And there are certain breadcrumbs, certain clues they've left. And here's the first one. This is going to seem absurd, but implementing techniques to relax is indulging our controlling tendencies. We have a choice. Practice yang or yin, to be rigid or flexible, to be controlling or laid back. The Buddha recommended the second, being flexible and being laid back. Let's continue. So closing the eyes is also a contrivance. From here, I do a body scan relaxation technique, starting at the top of my head, going down to my toes. Now, this is very common in hypnosis, but this is not what the Buddha taught. This is an act of contrivance. Doesn't mean this is a bad person. This is a growth opportunity. If you've got good results, brace yourself for even better results. Whoops. Excuse me. Let's continue. I focus on my skin, so to say, and everything, from relaxing the eyes and mouth right down to the fingers and toes. This process takes roughly 7 minutes. Once again, fractional relaxation is nothing new, but it was not what the Buddha emphasized or even taught. Number 5, from here I count backwards from 10 to 0, slowly focusing on breathing in through one nostril and then breathing out through another nostril. So here we see two techniques. Counting backwards comes to us from hypnosis, and alternate nostril breathing comes to us from yoga. It is a path of contrivance. It's a saying, I want my body to feel a certain way, therefore I'm going to do something to my body, as opposed to something completely different. The Buddha basically said, well, didn't say, but the Buddhist techniques inferred what we now know by neuroscience, because let's face it, back in the Iron Age, there were no fMRI machines, but now we know that there is an autonomic nervous system that will do all this for us in a very healing way. And we'll explore more of that in a few minutes. I'm sorry, my nose is out of control. When I reach 0, I'm almost at my most relaxed state. Now, this is, once again, Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including humans, including meditation teachers. What does that succulus look like? It looks like yang. It looks like pseudo-spiritual patriarchy. It looks like people honestly believing that being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel is A-okay. And that the opposite, being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, is just plain lousy. I kid you not, people actually teach this. I'm sure you've heard if it's to be, if it's up to me, but that is not the path of being laid back. If you're a fan of the Coen brothers, we can be like the Big Lebowski, or we can be like the dude. Now, there are many, approximately 90% of meditation teachers sing the praises of jhana work, seeking deeper and deeper trance-like experiences. But that's contrivance. And contrivance is not the Buddha way. The Buddha taught a very simple path, and the Buddha promised it is possible to master it in only 7 days. So remember, simplicity is the zenith of elegance. Let's continue. Both these processes can prevent thoughts from entering my mind even before they are formed, before they are even formed. During this deepened state, my body-mind enters a fuzzy state where I don't feel my body. I feel disconnected, from thoughts and feelings. So let's explore that. Let's see, I'm on page 13. Let's keep that in mind, perhaps. Okay, so when we look at the Eightfold Path, we see that the seventh fold is mindfulness. When we look at these 7 enlightenment factors, we find that the first factor is mindfulness. There is a myth that has evolved from a very long time ago that thoughts are bad, that perceptions are bad, but the Buddha said no. The path is all about noticing. Noticing whatever comes up. Noticing vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Noticing sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. Noticing emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Noticing entire spectrum of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque, and all points in between. The Buddha taught a path of mindfulness, where instead of being defensive, we were vulnerable. Instead of hiding from that which we could perceive, we were actually curious about it. It has been my experience that practicing the Buddha's, that the 2 litmus tests of the Buddha's path is this. You know, when you're driving a car, you got a speedometer to let you know if you're going the right speed. Well, in Buddhism, we have energy and joy. The less energy and joy, the more we have lost our way. The more energetic and joyful our experience of meditation, the more we're going in the right direction. Let's return to page 13. I'm not sure if this is just a product of mind or something else. If I try to expand my consciousness outwards, I usually snap out of it. And if I don't, I come out of the meditation slowly. So this isn't meditation. This is simply relaxation. And it sounds like you do a very good job of it. But once again, trying to expand your consciousness is the opposite of allowing things to take place. The Buddha's path is not one of force, but allowing. Huge difference. It's not one of pseudo-spiritual yang, but spiritual yin. It's not one of pseudo-spiritual patriarchy, but spiritual matriarchy. The whole process usually takes between 25 to 40 minutes. Could I please have some feedback on other areas to explore? Certainly. Or if not, I'm just happy to sit at this deepened state of relaxation as I feel it is good for my conscious state of mind. So, I mentioned that 90% of everything sucks, and 90% of meditation teachers really embrace being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. I was really shocked when I first started checking out Buddhism. I was expecting much, much different. I found lots of cultiness, and I saw lots of guru worship, and I saw lots of elitism, and it was heartbreaking. But there seems to always be a minority of luminaries, people who really get it, regardless of nationality, regardless of culture, regardless of gender. So let's start, oddly enough, with what doesn't work. What's often taught by many teachers is that we should actively focus and actively analyze. Relying upon our prefrontal cortex stimulates our amygdala, the seat of aggression and anxiety. Fortunately, the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala are not the only components of our central nervous system. The seventh fold of the Buddha's eightfold path is sati, which we can translate as mindfulness or awareness. The key to practice mindfulness with the utmost efficiency is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this in harmony with our inhalation. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system. Ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord, this sympathetic nervous system is evolved to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. But what is it we have evolved to perceive? We have evolved to perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. What are we to do with all this stuff that we notice? How are we to process it? This brings us to meditation. The most efficient way to practice it is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Excuse me. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within both the lower third and the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Well, this is also relaxing, just like the contrived method. What's so beneficial about this? Number one, because it's not using force, it calms the anxious and aggressive amygdala. Number two, because it's not using force, it stimulates this weird looking thing that kind of looks like a backwards letter C. This thing that the big kids call the anterior cingulate gyrus. This thing that functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. The late Tuku Tundup insisted that the highest love was not the byproduct of contrived concentration and contemplation, but rather the fringe benefit was whether simply the spontaneous and uncontrived fringe benefit of mindfulness and meditation. Thus, it should come as little surprise that persistently training in sati and samadhi will cause our choices and our utterances and our deeds to flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity. No, not scattered spontaneity, but centered spontaneity. So, but wait, there's more. The Buddha taught an eightfold path. In fact, it could be argued that enlightenment is nothing more than mastery of the eightfold path, getting so good at it that we practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. The wild thing about mindfulness and meditation is that it causes the remaining six folds to be mastered spontaneously. As we mentioned, training in mindfulness and meditation stimulates our anterior cingulate gyrus, the seat of empathy, which is unfortunate because 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path pertains to simply bringing the four bases of mindfulness into the path of loving kindness, bringing the mental and the interpersonal and the physical and the circumstantial into the path of loving kindness. As mentioned, the more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more we cannot help but flowing from the effortless effort of centered spontaneity. Sit comfortably in a sustainable posture, silently, mentally, and passively reciting this as we breathe in and ease as we breathe out, and we can't help but notice change, even if we try not to. We notice a change in sights and sound. We notice our sights changing, sounds changing, sensations changing, flavors changing, scents changing. We notice emotions changing, intentions changing, thoughts changing, different memories coming up, different fantasies unwinding. Practice mindfulness and meditation in the mastery of the Eightfold Path, in the words of Agent Smith, becomes an inevitability, or to paraphrase him actually. So it's nice to do all this jibber-jabbering. I suspect it can be even better to practice together as a team. So let's do so after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect. I take this back, of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to meditate like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers, just like you. Together as a team, let us play with the latest iteration of letting go, mindfulness, meditation, and love. Oh boy, Lama Jigme. He's a charmer, isn't he? All class, all the time. Way back in junior high, our PE teachers would have us warm up, do our workout, and then cool down. We're going to follow a similar outline. Let's begin with Wisdom's warm-up, where the view of reality, wherein we explore the view of reality that supports letting go, the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. We begin with the circumstantial. Please chant with me. Observing the coming and going of appearing circumstantial phenomena helps us to see, however, changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. So we're going to take all these words and squeeze them into just 6 syllables that we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. Return now to the Kaya physical. Feeling the coming and going of sensual physical phenomena helps us to feel, however, changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. We turn now to the Vedana interpersonal. Listening to the coming and going of resounding interpersonal phenomena helps us to hear, however, changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. We conclude with the Chitta mental. Noticing the coming and going of lucid mental phenomena helps us to clearly perceive, however, changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. And now we come to the seventh and eighth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, mindfulness and meditation. Now, yes, we are living in the age of smartphones, and they are quite lovely. But we might not always have smartphones. Smartphones can get stolen, lost, or broken. And in the age of fascism, they can get confiscated, which is a fancy word for stolen by authority personnel. However, there is a way to keep track of our meditation that not only makes us independent of these teeny tiny technological terrors, but actually, for those of us who are neurodivergent, act as stimming. And for those of us who practice or are familiar with Buddhist Tantra, it helps us to gently practice Mudra Anuyoga energy work. And it's simply a method I like to call Bengali crease counting, where upon our knuckles we collect 4 collections of the 12 sets of 12 rounds. Now, how does that work? Well, a round is simply one inhalation followed by an exhalation. And we're going to begin right now by counting 12 rounds upon our right hand together as a team, whilst silently and mentally reciting this as we inhale and ease as we exhale. In addition to reciting this during our inhalation, we're also going to advance the tip of our right thumb. Here we go. So we've learned how to count 12 rounds upon our right hand. Upon our left hand, we can count 12 sets. So upon our left hand, we would count our first set of 12 rounds, our second set of 12 rounds, our third set of 12 rounds, our fourth set of 12 rounds, and so on. Now, if you're clever with math, that's a total of 144 rounds, which takes approximately 15 minutes. But what if you wish to practice for the better part of an hour? Well, then you can gather 4 collections upon our knuckles. And I'll demonstrate how to do that upon the jumbo cam. So we keep track of our first collection by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger. Actually, I'm just going to subject you to crotch cam, which sounds terribly salacious, doesn't it? But what we're doing is we're resting the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger for the first collection. During the second collection, we're moving on to our ring fingers, and then our middle fingers, and for the fourth collection, our index fingers. All the while, our hands are in our lap, and we are counting. Now, if you were to conclude that this seems ungainly and difficult to master the first time you hear it, I would have to agree. But what have you ever mastered the first time you've done it? Did you master tying your shoes the first time you tried it? Did you master riding a bike the first time you did it? Did you master making love the first time you did that? I didn't. But I can promise you this. If you hang out with me every 12 hours here on YouTube, then within a week or 2, you'll master it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So, if relaxation is not the only goal of meditation, then what is? To simply cooperate with our autonomic nervous system in a deeply fulfilling and healing way. Good morning and welcome to the second half of our group meditation. Allow me to catch you up to speed. The most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. Doing so induces the cerebral cortex to cooperate with the sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. The sympathetic nervous system is evolved to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Perceive what? Perceive sight, sound, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. What are we to do with these things? That brings us to meditation. The most efficient way to do that is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system, found in both the lower third as well as the upper third of that same spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to support physical relaxation as well as mental release. Meditation is actively inviting our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our autonomic nervous system in a way that frees us from the tyranny of our amygdala and accesses the empathy of our anterior cingulate gyrus. Let us seal this morning's practice with the compassionate cool down. For loving kindness comprises 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Please chant with me as we bring the Chitta mental into the path. Since we are not alone in our mental frustrations, we could also long that others' mental needs also be met. So we're going to take all these words and compress them into just 6 syllables, which we are going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. Do remember that the mental morality of kind intention is the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Since we are not alone in our interpersonal frustrations, we could also long that others' interpersonal needs also be met. The interpersonal morality of kind communication is the third fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Since we are not alone in our physical frustrations, we could also long that others' physical needs also be met. The physical morality of kind conduct is the fourth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Since we are not alone in our circumstantial frustrations, we could also long that other circumstantial needs also be met. The circumstantial morality of kind commerce is the fifth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 or so hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you.